A very good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. And coming up in the next 2 hours, Electricity Company of Ghana to resolve arbitrary deductions made from faulty meters as PURC moves to penalize them over overbilled prepaid customers. The Africa Center for Energy Policy warns of imminent load shedding as works on repair of FPSO set to be extended. We'll hear from them and explore the options to avert the return of doomsday. And President Mahama declares he's the only head of state in Ghana's history effectively fighting corruption in his administration. But is that true? We will hear from the anti-corruption groups. We have details for you on these stories, plus the latest in sports in the next 2 hours. My name is Francis Aban. Grab that chair, sit down. It's a packed show for you, and let's get started. And as always, your views and comments on this show are always welcome. Just go to Joy News on TV on Twitter. Drop your comment. My handle on Twitter is at Francis_Aban. With the hashtag The Pulse, share your thoughts on the stories we bring you here on the program. We'll be glad to share it with the rest of the world. If you are a Facebooker, there's space for you. Search for Joy News on Facebook. Drop your comment there on any of the stories we're bringing you today on the show. We'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. We start off on a very sad note this afternoon because the police in Accra have mounted a search for a tenant who poured acid on a 16-year-old boy and inflicted severe burns on his body. The suspect, a Nigerian man, Suleiman Yuguda, poured a corrosive substance on him and his family over a misunderstanding with the father of the victim. The victim, that we'll call Andy for now, has been narrating the painful ordeal he has been going through since the incident to my colleague Beatrice Edu.
It was a quiet evening that fateful Monday at home as Andy put together his books in readiness for school the next day. Little did he know that his education would be cut short temporarily. Later that night, an angry Nigerian tenant who owed Andy's father began arguing with him on their tenancy agreement. But the young boy who tried to intervene became the victim. His burns, which became maggot-infested, runs from the back of his neck to his buttocks. We are here at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, precisely the male ward of the burns unit, to talk about the 16-year-old boy who suffered severe acid burns due to a misunderstanding between his father, who is a landlord, and a tenant. And so I would go inside there and speak to him, but because of the pungent smell in there, I would have to put on a face mask, and I'll call a nurse here to help me fix it. Okay, so all right, the nurse is just helping me to fix the face mask. At least it will reduce the intensity of the smell in the ward. Okay. Okay, so this is the boy.
Around 10:30 to 11 in the night, and I heard that I was asleep, and I heard that my father was inside the house talking with one of the tenants. And I woke up and I went. He's a Nigerian.
So what actually did he do? The reason he had issues with your father? What was the problem?
Like he said his time was due. His tenancy agreement was due. You have to go. He forged another document. He signed on. My father signed 2 years agreement.
So your father is a landlord.
He signed 2 years, and when the 2 years was due, he forged another document. That he did not sign 2 years, but he signed 4 years, which means that was like a lie. But I realized that the man was coming with small bucket acid was inside, but I don't know the acid. He was coming to pour it to my father, but he was already towards us. Oh, one was coming to pour the acid on my father, and I rushed there, and acid poured on me. But I thought it was hot water. So I did not know, and I realized that my dress was rotten, yes, and my skin.
So which part of your body did the acid pour on?
My stomach, and my back, my face, and my neck, my hands, both of them.
I'm told that sometimes you get maggots coming out from the wound.
Yes, please.
Does it happen all the time?
No, yesterday. I went to dressing yesterday. It happened yesterday. All my hands, my stomach were coming out.
How did that make you feel?
I was very disturbed.
But that was not all. The tenant poured the rest of the corrosive substance on his dad, 2 other relatives, and another tenant. So I have the nurse in charge of the bench unit here at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Doris J. Interco. Let me find out from you, how extensive is the 16-year-old, that's Andy's wounds?
If we are talking about the body, the total body surface area involved, then we will say it's 38%.
38%. What about the depth of the wound?
It's a full thickness, meaning the whole layers of the muscle, the tissue is affected. His dressing, he has to spend about 500 Ghana cedi anytime he changes dressing.
And he does that how often?
Twice in a week. We could have changed it 3 times, but because of the cost involved, which is unbearable.
And how long does he have to be here?
He will need surgical intervention. Now there's some areas of the wound is ready to be grafted. So he will have to spend about 3 more months. So if he has to be changing dressing twice in a week, which is 1,000 cedis, then you can do the calculation. But the cost of the surgery will be around 3,000. And it will be more than that. He will need series.
Andy's family say they don't know how long they can continue to pay the huge medical bills as he battles to overcome his extensive injuries, and are praying help will come to him fast. My name is Beatrice Edu for Joy News.
Right, so that's the sad story coming in today, an acid attack on this young boy who was just trying to help out and, help the father who was almost attacked by them. And in fact, he bore the brunt of this very sad incident over a tenancy agreement that had gone bad. Well, we have a picture of the man who committed this act, Suleiman Yuguda. This is the man that the police are looking for today, the man who committed the act of pouring acid on this 16-year-old boy who suffered these burns. We know that it's very gory. Maggots are already coming out of these burns that Andy has got on his body, struggling to survive. But that's the man that the police are looking for. He's called Suleiman Yuguda. If you are able to see him anywhere in Accra, in Ghana, the police are looking for him. If you can help in trying to identify him, then we will get to the bottom of this matter so justice can be served. Let's speak to the one who suffered this very sad acid attack, Andy's brother. He's joining us now on the line. Rifkin Dodu is the brother of Andy. Good afternoon to you, Rifkin.
Good afternoon.
We've already seen the predicament your brother is in, but for the family, how are you taking this very difficult time?
Well, I think we have, as a family, we have been able to deal with the issue to an extent which we can now. So, for instance, we've had to rally around and then come together and support Andy. Number one, I think it's financially. That's the biggest burden. Number two is emotionally. We've had to support him emotionally so that he can stay strong in these times. The fact that he's not going to school currently and he's had to deal with the psychological issue of lying in bed all day, and not just lying in bed, but lying in bed with 40% degree burns to his body. But I think by God's grace, we've dealt with it pretty well
Okay.
until now.
We'll talk about what help is needed and what people can do to help Andy out. But tell me something. Since this incident happened, what has been the father's reaction to this? I can imagine that even though he also suffered part of the acid attack, he's struggling to come to terms with how his son is struggling with this condition.
Well, I think like any other father, obviously, you would have a lot of, you'll be going through a lot of things in your mind as to why this happened, could it have been prevented, and what can you do for your son. But the situation is that he himself got burnt, half of his face, the left side of his face got burnt completely by the corrosive acid, his neck area as well, and both arms. But he's been through surgery, constructive surgery, and it has been pretty much successful. So he's in a better condition now. So we are more focusing on Andy, my brother.
On Andy, okay. All right. For this man who committed the act, many want to understand what the problem is. Yes, we know it was over a tenancy agreement, but how did a simple matter of a tenancy agreement degenerate into this?
So this is my understanding. I wasn't there. My father gave out the property. My father gave out the property to someone, and this person was transferred out of Accra. So what my understanding is that the person who originally had the property subletted it out to this Nigerian guy. And so it was one day, just found out that the person who was rented to was out of the building, and this Nigerian guy, Suleimana, has occupied the building. And so what my father decided to do was to manage the period within which he had to stay there, and then he can leave. He can leave. However, when the tenancy agreement came to an end, he forged an extension of the tenancy agreement, and that is where everything started. So we took this issue to the court. I think the Kaneshi Circuit Court was dealing with this, and on the 15th of February, we went to court. The issue was discussed. We were meant to go back to court on the 9th of March with a copy of the tenancy agreement, which he claims my father had signed. And then this happened on the 22nd of February. So we couldn't go back to court in order to prove the forgery that the made-up tenancy agreement that he had come up with.
Yeah, signed up.
And on the 22nd, the acid attack took place.
For
February.
this man who came to occupy the building belonging to your father, Suleiman Iguda, what more do you know about him beyond the fact that he's a Nigerian?
I don't know much about him, to be very honest. I don't know much. I know one thing, he doesn't work. I know he doesn't work. And that is all I know about him. And the fact that he's a Nigerian who was living in my father's house and was giving my father a lot of tenancy issues, and problems. And we were just counting the days for his time to come so that he could leave. And it turned into something else. Okay,
all right. Now, you talk of Andy needing a lot in terms of care for the operations and things that have to be done to get him back on his feet and fully recovered. What exactly does he need in terms of support?
So now, antibiotics. This is what I've been told. He needs antibiotics every day, and this is because his number one, his blood levels are very low, and number two, his albumin levels are very, very low. We need to bring him to a place where the doctors are saying he's on ground zero now. We want to bring him to a level ground where his body would even be in the right frame of mind to respond to treatment. He needs dressings. His dressing of the sore, because 40% of his body is burnt. The dressing is, in some cases, has to be even on a daily basis. Let me give you an example. A couple of days ago, he was changed. He was dressed. I was at the hospital last night, and I could tell he's already wet everywhere. And when he gets wet, it is advised by the nurses and the doctors that he's changed immediately. If not, he probably begins to develop maggot or an infection.
All right. So for the funds required to get Andy back on his feet, how much are we talking about here?
That would be very difficult to say. I asked the doctors specifically last night how much, and they couldn't tell me. What they could say is that a lot of money will be required.
Okay.
And what I have done is currently set up a GoFundMe account. and the GoFundMe account, we are raising some money for him.
All
I
right.
don't want to mention the amount because I can't tell, to be honest,
Okay.
and it will be misleading if I say anything.
No problem, Rifkin. But thank you for speaking to us this afternoon. I'm sure for those who are watching, who are touched, they will do what they want to do to help out Andy at a time like this. Pretty sad story to bring you this afternoon. A 16-year-old boy who saw his father come under attack in his bed to avoid the dad's being in a very difficult situation, took the fall for him, and this is what we are seeing today. We'll see. But it's just becoming one too many in terms of the acid attacks we're seeing in the country. Last year, there were a number of reports we had that were even reported in the media of people suffering acid attacks. It could either be out of a bad relationship, and now we're learning of a tenancy agreement that had gone bad that's seen Andy in this situation. We'll see what can be done in terms of policy to also control the easy access of individuals to acid in the country. At this point, we'll go for a break. When we come back, there are some energy issues we need to tackle right now. The FPSO that has been undergoing some routine maintenance works, we're learning that it could have a real effect on the power supply in this country. We might be considering an imminent load shedding. We'll deal with those details after the break here on The Pulse. Stay with us.